What's up YouTube? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky and today's video is going to be insane. We're going to be talking about all the scams that are going on right now on Facebook Marketplace, Instagram, OfferUp, Craigslist, all those things. Now this video idea was brought to us by one of our subscribers wondering how can they protect themselves and what are some of the scams that are going out there. Now you guys are going to probably know some of the scams that we're going to go over in this particular video, but I guarantee you there's a lot you don't. So make sure you stay to the end because I'm going to talk about how my friend almost lost $200,000 on a Lamborghini Huracan because he didn't know a few small things that saved him a lot of headache and heartache. But anyways, before I get into the video, if you could do me a huge favor and gently squeeze the like button for the YouTube algorithm, it helps me find more amazing people like yourselves that enjoy automotive content. Also, please consider subscribing. We post 3 times a week, so make sure you click the notification bell so you're notified every time we post. Also, once again, follow us on Instagram at automotive.life. We are way more popular on there than we are in here for some reason. I think it's because we cuss a lot more and we do a lot more funnier car stuff on there that doesn't get kicked off of YouTube. Also, if you guys can do me a huge favor, if you put a comment section below, you are qualified for a gift card for this video from Harbor Freight. Yes, we're going to give out another $100 gift card. All you got to do to qualify is just put a comment section or put a comment in the section below. Whether it's you want to talk about how you got scammed or the crazy stuff you see in your market. If you want to put toast, I'd buy that for $1, funny joke, whatever it is. You know, like I said, the more the merrier. You're qualified for it. All you have to do, like I said, is put a comment section below and I'll be sending out that $100 gift card for Harbor Freight. But without any more shameless plugging, let's get into the video. So people trying to scam you while you're buying a car is nothing new. I remember my grandfather telling me stories, my father telling me stories. So now I'm going to tell you a few of the stories that I have. So back in the day when I first started flipping cars, I used to get all my cars from Auto Trader. Now back then, Auto Trader was just a magazine. It was not a website. So we used to go every week. They used to print it out and I think it was like $1.99 or something. We'd go buy our new issue. Now one particular weekend I was excited because when I purchased this magazine, there was a 68 Camaro rolling shell in there and it was only I think for like $1,500 or $2,000 and I was like ecstatic. It was like my dream car back then. So I remember calling the guy and I'm like, hey, do you have the title? You know, does it look like the pictures, everything else? He's like, yes. I'm like, where do you live? He lives somewhere, I think it was like Golden Valley, which is like 3 hours away from Las Vegas, but I didn't care. This was my dream car. So after I talked to the guy, I hung up the phone. I ran straight to U-Haul. I rented a U-Haul. I rented a trailer. I got my buddy and we hauled butt down there. It took us about 3 hours to get there. Once we got there, the car was a complete pile of shit. It was rusted. The guy didn't have the title. I was missing parts everywhere, you know, and the guy was like, well, you drove all this way. You should still buy it. And I'm like surprised. That guy should have got beat up for gas money. I was so enraged, but that's part of the scamming that went on back then. Nowadays with the internet, it's so much more easier to scam people. And so that's why I wanted to make this video to kind of warn you guys about some of the scams that are out there. Now, some of the ones we're going to go over, you guys have seen or heard of, but I guarantee you there's a lot you're not going to know. So make sure, like I said, you stay to the end because we're going to talk about how my friend almost lost $200,000 buying a Lamborghini and not checking a few small things. Now, one of the biggest scams we see, which most of you guys probably know about, is the email scam. If you ever see an ad on Facebook, Craigslist, OfferUp, and it says email me, 9 times out of 10, they're full of shit. If I want to get rid of something, I'll leave my phone number. I'm like, hey, you can message me on Facebook, or you can message me on OfferUp, or you could do whatever else. So the reason why they give you the email addresses is because they want to scam you. Now, the reason why they're able to do this is Facebook, OfferUp, and everywhere else has an algorithm where if you type in anything like wire me money or send me PayPal, whatever else the case is, it red flags your account. And if you get too many inquiries like that and you can tag somebody with fraud, you get them kicked off. So they always put a third-party email on there. So this way you email them off the platform so they don't get flagged so their account stays live a lot longer. So if you guys see a car and it's obviously too good to be true and it's like email me at bobsmith@gmail.com. Oh, I have the title, I'm out of town. Go ahead and wire me the money or send me PayPal and I'll FedEx you the title. Don't ever do that. You ain't never gonna see that money again. If you can't literally physically walk up to somebody, hand them cash and shake their hand, don't ever do the deal. I don't care how great the deal is and how it seems legit and the guy sent you pictures of the title and sent you pictures of him and his grandkids sitting around the classic car. Do not do it. I'm telling you right now, it's a big nightmare, it's a pain in the ass, and you're gonna be taken for all your money. So if you see those things, if there's no email, don't even waste your time. You're always gonna get these, I'm a soldier deployed, or I'm out of town, or whatever else. Like I said, just stay away. So one of the biggest scams that are going on right now are the no title cars. There's a lot of people out there that are just trying to sell their cars with no titles. Now, if you are a regular person, I'm gonna tell you right now, do not buy a car with no title. If you're a dealer, you do have some options, which I'm gonna go over later, but as a regular person, you don't have shit. All these companies saying, we'll file for a lost title, we'll get a duplicate title, we'll do a storage lien. If you do liens, the bank and the original owner have the first right to get the vehicle before you do. Even if you show that you paid some idiot $2,000 for the car, if the bank goes over there and let's say the storage place has like a $500 lien on it, the bank just pays the storage company $500 and they take your car and you get nothing and you lose the money you paid the storage people. Don't do that. Also, if the car is stolen, they will take it right away and you'll get in trouble. You'll actually be accessories, so don't even mess with that either. Now, when you try to file for a lost title, unless he's the original registered owner, you cannot file for a lost title. There's a lot of people saying, I'll give you a bill of sale and I'll give you a lost title paperwork. You go to turn it in and a month later you get a letter saying, oh, this Mr. Bob Smith never owned the car. There's a lien on the vehicle. Where's the car at? We want to pick it up. You know, then you get screwed, or the cops will show up to your door asking for the vehicle. It's usually the sheriffs or marshals, those ones that serve repo notices and stuff like that. So, you know, it's very important not to buy those particular vehicles. If you are buying a car and the person's from your state, you could take them down to your local DMV. I do it all the time. You know, because there are some people that just misplace their titles. So you can go up to the customer and say, hey, look, you know, it takes 10 minutes. We can walk down to the DMV. You know, we could transfer it from your name into my name and I'll go ahead and pay you the money. And then you, as now the new registered owner, you can go ahead and file for a lost title and it'll come in your name. You know, most people that are legit will say, no problem, let's go ahead and do it, because they want to sell the car and it's honestly theirs. But if they start like, oh, I can't, I'm busy, I don't have the time, then they're full of shit, and more than likely the car is either stolen, they have a lien on it, or it's not even theirs. So it's just like one of those things. So do not mess with it. Now, if you are a dealership, you do have some legal options. Now, as a dealer, you have basically the DMV at your disposal. You can call your DMV clerk and say, hey, I'm calling for Mr. Bob Smith's Toyota Corolla. He lost the title. Is there any liens on it? Though most times they'll tell you no. Is there anything else? Any other second lien holders? Does he have the title? Is it clean? Is it rebuilt? Blah, 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 blah. What state is it issued in? They'll tell you all these things. So as a dealer, you have him sign a notarized bill of sale and a power of attorney. So you can, you're authorized through the DMV to file for a lost title, so you can get the title for that individual. So as a dealer, you do have some more options when it comes to getting those cars. So with all this mass migration that's been going on during the pandemic, you can actually use this as a benefit for your business. You can actually put out ads. Have you lost a title for your out-of-state car? We'll buy them. You could trade them in, blah, blah, blah. And you just really cut them low, because some titles that you can get from out of state, you can get them, but it takes sometimes weeks up to months to get them. We're still waiting. We bought a car from Miami, Florida, for pretty much 50% of MMR, so there's no way we're going to lose. But we had to wait almost, I think it's going to be about 4 months next week, you know, for them to actually finish the paperwork and send it to Nevada DMV so we could file the title here. But there are some great deals out there if you're a licensed dealer. But if you're a regular consumer, don't mess with it. It's a bunch of scams. It's a big headache. Stay away from it. So there's a few other scams going on right now with VIN and mileage discrepancies. Now, mileage discrepancy is a big thing right now. There's a lot of dealers and wholesalers and these other people that are buying cars and switching out the gauge clusters or actually rolling the miles back. It's a lot more obvious than what you think. So when you see a car and you're like, okay, it's a Toyota Camry, it's only got 150,000 miles, the guy's selling it cheap, I'll buy it, flip it, turn around and do that. You guys, if you're serious flippers or you're buyers and you want to get into this, you need to get either auto check or Carfax. And if you're a real business, it's part of the business expense. I know a lot of you guys don't want to spend 20 bucks a car to run the Carfax or the auto check, but it's a must-have accessory. One of the things I use, the tools, is called Laser Appraiser. It has Kelley Blue Book, MMR, auto check, and Carfax. You could scan it in one shot. You can learn all your numbers and see if the car is really good or not. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are literally, I remember watching a guy, I sold a Toyota RAV4 with 300,000 miles. You know, it was one of my friend's delivery vehicles. He drove the hell out of it. I got it from him for cheap. I sold it, made like, I think it was 800 bucks, got it out of there. The next week, it was back up there, still with his lettering on it and everything, and they put only 160,000 miles. So they literally switched out the odometer or rolled back the miles to get that. So if you're not checking the auto check or Carfax, you're going to run into a lot of that. And a lot of dealers are getting in trouble because they're advertising this. So they buy from, basically Facebook or OfferUp Marketplace. They turn around and they sell it as a licensed dealer. You are now legal. If you didn't put as is or TMU or miles unknown, you, the dealer, are basically liable for that car for the rest of its life. So if, let's say, 5 years from now, the guy runs an auto check and finds out that the miles were off when he bought it, he has the right to go to the DMV, and the DMV will force you to pay him back. And if you don't pay him back, they can go after your bond, and you'll basically owe for that car. So as a dealer, it's very crucial that you check the VIN and check the miles on every single car, and you run an auto check. It's very expensive, yes, but it's something that I'd rather spend $20 than get sued or have to buy back another car. And a lot of times I've seen a lot of these wholesalers, they're super lazy. They just scan the car. Oh, it sells for $4,000 at the auction. I'll buy it for $3,000. So they buy it for $3,000 thinking they're going to make $1,000 at the auction. As soon as they run it through the auction, auto check hits it, boom, flatlines at TMU, and they're screwed. There's nothing they can do. So it's very important that you check that before you actually buy the car, and even that, more important, figure that out before you take it to the auction, because once Manheim or Odessa gets a hold of it and that stamp goes on there, there's nothing you can do to get rid of it. If you get a bad car, at least you can dump it on the streets and just get rid of it. But once you take it to the auction and it gets stamped TMU, you automatically lose 30–40% of the value, or you might as well turn it into like a buy here, pay here car or something like that. Now, when it comes to VIN discrepancy, there are a lot of people out there buying and switching cars. I've seen it where they've literally bought a wrecked car from like Copart iaai, and they've got somebody, one of their buddies' cars that was up for repo, and they literally switched VIN tags. When you start looking at some of these cars, especially with the newer ones, and you start to feel like you're getting a good deal, you want to check the engine bay. There's always a VIN tag there. There's also one on the dash and in the door. And you want to kind of check these things and make sure that they all line up. I think it's the Highway Patrol has a database where it actually shows you where all the VIN placements are on every single car. You're going to have to learn this, because I've actually ran into several cars just like this week. I went to go buy a freaking Honda CR-V, what's the other one? An Infiniti QX, and a few other ones, and they all had the same thing. There was too many like misplaced VINs. Like the dash was one VIN, the door, the VIN was shaved off, but then the one on the firewall was completely different. Now sometimes it happens, cars get into an accident and they switch parts, but when I see the firewall's actual VIN different from the dash, that just lets me know they took the dash out of the good car, stuck it in that one, and just drove away, because that's the one that most cops check. But I let the people know, I'm like, I don't know if you know this or not, but your VINs don't match. And if you try to take it to CarMax or anybody else, it's going to send up red flags, and they're going to call Metro, and you're going to be arrested, or they're going to run those VINs and see what it is. If it's a parts car, it's innocent, no big deal. They use the parts from another car to fix one. But if it actually shows up as a flag as theft, or one of the VINs is classified as theft, you get brought down with it. And a lot of times you lose the car. I've seen people lose boats, cars, jet skis, motorhomes, where some of the VINs came up stolen, even though the whole car wasn't stolen. They basically had the right to take the car in, and they researched all the VIN numbers. So if the motor was associated with that stolen VIN number, you lose your motor, you lose whatever parts to go with it. It's a big nightmare. So you want to run the VINs, and you also want to run the miles to make sure if there's any type of discrepancies. So let's go ahead and get into the main story of the video, which is how my friend almost lost $200,000 buying a Lamborghini Huracan. Now, this is a wholesaler friend of mine that's been in the business for years. So even if you're a novice person or you've been in the business for a while, there are a lot of smart scammers out there. And I guarantee you this particular one, a lot of you guys are not going to know about, and that's why I wanted to save it towards the end. So he found this particular car. It was a 2016 or 17 Lamborghini Huracan. At this particular time, wholesale on him was, I believe, $220 to $235. And he got this guy down to, I believe it was almost $200,000 to $195. And he was like, I'm getting this screaming deal. I've never bought anything expensive or exotic, but this guy, he's desperate. He said he's leaving the country. He's got family issues, whatever else. And so, he's never dealt with exotic cars, so he wanted me to come along and check him out, because when it comes to exotic cars, if you don't buy the right model, the certain make, if the maintenance is wrong, if there's a few things off, the value of the vehicle can change dramatically. So he invited me to come along. I said, no problem. I brought my tools, my scanner, a few other things I bring with me, and we went down there to go check out this car. Now, when I check out exotic cars, I do a bunch of different things. We check the maintenance histories. I call some of my vendors in different states to see if any parts have been ordered for the vehicle, because all this stuff is tracked, especially with exotic cars. So anything that you find, the next buyer is going to find, and that could hurt you significantly when you go to sell it. So I did my normal ritual. We spent about 30 minutes. We were calling vendors that I knew to see where the car was serviced at, what was done to it, and everything else, and match it up with the Carfax and AutoCheck. Now, when it comes to expensive cars or cars that I'm personally buying for myself, I run both an AutoCheck and Carfax. Now, yes, they kind of do the same thing, but most times they have completely different information. Now, AutoCheck is used by most dealerships and most franchises and everything else. When a car gets run through the auction, it gives much more data. Condition reports, maintenance reports, mileage, stuff like that, where Carfax will give you like general maintenance if it's been done at an actual franchise store, registered owner, stuff like that. But I'd run them on both because just to see if there's any type of discrepancies, because every once in a while, you know, you'll see a discrepancy. Also, there is some data on a Carfax that I use to verify certain things, which is I'm going to go over in this video. So I got both printouts and before we showed up there, and I was going through the car and I was matching it up with what I was saying on the phone with everything else. We drove the car, I tested it was hot, cold, ran my scanner on it, everything came through, it passed smog, no problem. We're down to the final part and I'm like, okay, I'd like to inspect the title. And he's like, no problem. And he was very weird, like he showed me the title and I went to grab it and he's like, oh no, I'm not giving you the title. And I'm like, I need to see the title. I got to look at it. I got to run some numbers to make sure, you know, that everything is on the up and up. And I was like, we're not going anywhere. I go, he's obviously going to wire you the money. And that's when he told me that he wired him $50,000, that he could trust him. So I was already pissed off. I'm like, why did you wire this guy 50 grand? I wouldn't have wired him anything until I actually double checked it. So anyways, he gave me the title. I looked. Now, if you look at Carfax, it gives you, like I said, a lot of really good information, but the one good thing that it gives you is what's called a title number. If you look at the top of the Carfax, there's a little number right there that says title number. So I looked at the title number that was on there, and then I looked at the title that I had, and they were off by a huge amount of numbers. So what happened is this guy, and I've seen it happen a bunch of times here in Vegas, they basically pay off their car, they get the title, they call the DMV and they say, I lost my title, and the DMV sends them another one. So now they have two titles, the old one and the new one. They take the new title because they know that CarMax and all these other car places and vendors are going to check the VIN number on Carfax, just like I'm doing, to see what was the last title issued, and they take that title and they loan on the vehicle. So I noticed this and I'm like, hey, the title numbers don't match. And he's like, what are you talking about? The VIN numbers match. I'm like, no. I said title number. This title number is a much, much older one than the one that's on Carfax. Did you order a new title? And he's like, oh yeah, I did, but I lost that. And then I ended up looking for that one and I found this one. I was like, okay, no problem. All we got to do is go to the DMV. We can file the paperwork. We can switch it over. You know, it's no big deal. And this guy was like, no, I'm going to sell it to somebody else. I don't want to deal with these headaches, you know. And my friend was getting really worried because he wanted to buy this car to make 20 grand. He's like, come on, man, we'll just push it through. I'm like, don't do it. I'm telling you, you're about to lose your ass. I guarantee you this guy owes money to somebody. And there's only a handful of people I know that let borrow exotic car money like that. And so we wound up calling a few of my friends, and I found out that this guy ended up borrowing money from another friend of mine on his car because he was trying to save his floundering restaurant. He wanted to pay off, I guess, some like crazy escorts that were shaking him down for money because they were going to tell his wife what he was doing. So he pulled out $120,000 out of his Lamborghini to give to these other people. Well, I told my friend, I was like, bro, this is a big shady deal. You need to get your money back. So we basically had to literally shake the guy down and say, hey, you need to give us back his money or you're going to have problems. And he's like, I'm not giving you the money. You wired it that, you lose your deposit. So my friend wound up coming by, repoing that car from him, and because he basically lied and was trying to sell under false pretenses, which I guess voided his contract. So he got the car back, sold it, my friend got his money back, and I guess the guy now is banished from America. He can't come back here to the States anymore. But he almost lost $50,000, or almost $200,000, but only lost 50, but he got it back from my friend after they sold the Huracan, which it all kind of worked out at the end. But those are some of the things you got to watch out. Like, nobody teaches